Welcome to the Asian Women of Power podcast, where your host, Kimchi Chow, shares tips, tools, insights, and strategies on how you too can create the life you love with freedom, power, and choice. Kimchi will show you how to break free of your cultural boundaries and boldly live the life of your dreams. If you are ready to transform your life, please go to www.asianwomenofpowerquiz.com and take the quiz. You may qualify for a free discovery session with Kimchi. And now, here's your host, Kimchi Chow.
Welcome to the Asian Women of Power podcast. I'm glad that you are here with us today. In a moment, you will meet our guest panel and get to know them better. I believe you will find their stories fascinating and inspiring. So stay tuned. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to Asian Women of Power podcast and Asian Women of Power YouTube channel. We believe that our messages and stories are worth to share so that you don't feel that you are alone. This is my way to empowering you and the Asian community to speak up, stand up, and show up powerfully and confidently. So let's get started. Kevin, tell us who you are and what led you to do what you do now.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm an actor. I was born in Dallas, Texas, and my parents came here from Vietnam. My dad came here around like 1970. My mom came in 1980, and they met and they had my sister. My dad is a computer software engineer. My mom stayed home and she took care of my sister and I. And I had a relatively middle-class upbringing in Dallas. The schools that I went to were like mostly Caucasian, African American, and Hispanic. So like the minority group amongst all of those were the Asian people. And so I tried my best to like band with my fellow Asians whenever in times of like if we were being bullied or anything like that, we would always stick together. But I was always into the arts as a kid. I loved to draw. When I was in middle school, I loved to sing and stuff like that. But once I got into college, I was really, really interested in acting, and I had so much of like this curiosity and I didn't know where to start even, because I mean, no one in my family or none of my friends knew anything about acting. And so I remember, I was working at the movie theater at the time, and I was just like, you know what, I have no idea what I'm doing. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I went to go watch movies for free. And like this, I got what they call the acting bug. I got bit, and I knocked on the theater professor's door at my school, and I was like, hi, I want to take acting classes. And he enrolled me. Ever since then, my life has changed. I mean, I continued and I got my BFA in theater. And then I graduated in June, and then shortly after that, I moved to New York, and I was there for about 2 years trying to do the off-Broadway or Broadway thing. And then I got an opportunity to move out here to LA, and that's where I still am now. And I've worked as an actor, and it's a dream come true, and I still feel like there's still so much more to explore and to experience and as an actor. And so like, I feel like I'm just scratching the rooftop right now.
Wow, scratching the rooftop. Wow, that you can reach that high?
Maybe, yeah.
I never heard of that before. I heard scratching the surface. The surface is on the floor or on the wall, but a rooftop. Oh wow, you aim high. That's awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Catherine, what about you?
Yeah, I originally born in Vietnam. Actually, I came here when I was 2 with my parents with their sponsorship. Straight to Orange County, so I kind of never left California. But I like Kevin, I've always been interested in the arts. It's always a big thing, part of my life. And I blame my parents, but my dad bought a sewing machine from Goodwill when I was 12, and I was hooked. I started sewing, and then now I am a costumer, work in costumes in film and TV. But like getting here was definitely hard because not a lot of people really know how to get in. It's all based on who you know. I was told the traditional route of going to high school, getting good grades, taking the AP classes, college, yada yada. But I always knew that I did my research, found out that there's fashion school, so I went to fashion school, and I was known as that kid who had good grades, was smart, but didn't want to go to like a regular UC college. It was strange, but pursued it. I have a degree in fashion design and a degree in costume design for theater, and so like throughout college, I just was working always full time somewhere related in costumes. I worked at Universal Studios, Renaissance Fair, student films, a lot of student films. But it was just trying to networking, just trying to ask so many questions on how to get into the industry. And again, there's no actual route. What got me in was through my graduate program for costume design. It was through an internship for Captain Marvel, strangely out of nowhere. And because, well, technically it was through, they had an internship because it was a tax break for them, but it was fine because they got me in. And so I managed to impress them enough. And how to get into union is that you need 30 days, and they managed to get me my days. And so a year and a half later, I finally got in to the 705 Motion Pictures costumers, which is an average takes around 3 to 5 years, and managed to get in a recent graduate. Yeah, it was crazy. But I'm one of the youngest, and there isn't a lot of Asian Americans, especially Vietnamese Americans. It's so rare for to have other people in this because it's not a route or a career that a lot of parents would trust or would encourage. And so it was very difficult trying to explain it all to my parents, especially to my relatives, and what I wanted to do.
Well, wow, that's a unique path.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really was. I mean, the most people know is, alterations and sewing aoyais and making and having those stores, but that's the most people know about sewing, especially like in clothing.
That's awesome. Pam?
It's so great to hear your stories and how untraditional, at least in the Asian community, your paths are. So I love it. I'm Pam Yang, a New Yorker, born and raised, but I've also lived in Montana and Oregon. I'm a single, only child, single mom mainly, and both my parents came from Taiwan, and they came to New York for their master's, so they met here, but they were split when I was really young, maybe when I was like 3. And I think a lot of things led me to where I am today. My mom would say stubbornness. I would say perseverance. But right now, so I have my own career coaching business, but most of which I went full time with last year, I've been doing on the side for about 2 to 3 years. But before that, I had like a 15-year career in essentially like brand marketing, brand strategy, mainly within sports. And that was my dream. And I think the main thing that I've been doing most of my life is like kind of happiness hunting and dream chasing. And I think I was maybe around 8, 9, 10 when I was like, I'm going to be commissioner of the NBA. Like, basketball is my sport. I love basketball. That's the league. That's the top job. That's what I should have, right? It was like very simple. It was very linear. And my mom never understood like where this child came from. She was like, I don't understand who you are, why you are the way you are. But I attribute a lot to where I am today. I think I didn't get a lot of, I got the pressure that is, normally comes with a traditional Asian upbringing. But I think because I was an only child and because my mom was an only single parent, our dynamic was very one-on-one. Like, we didn't have a lot of other influences, at least within our day-to-day. And she laid out this path, which was good grades, Ivy League school, so on and so forth. And the options are orthodontist, specifically, law, medicine otherwise, and finance, or accounting. And she was in banking. And I think because I didn't have other distractions at home, I didn't have siblings to play with, I saw her life very clearly. I saw how late she came home. I saw how much work, how many dinners she had to do after work. I saw how tired she was when she came back. I saw how little time like we had to spend. And I was like, I don't know what exactly you're doing, but I know I don't want to do what you're doing. And it wasn't just in the finance terms. It was like, whatever life you've laid out clearly may not be the right path. And I think early on, because I had that inkling, I was like, cool, I'm going to chase like my own path. And I was able to block out a lot of things. It was very painful and very unsupported for a lot of it. But I think because from that early age, I was like, okay, like I can kind of maybe make my own way. That's been really, really useful along the way. And I chased various jobs within sports. And I'm very happy with all the places I went because I kind of hit the dream jobs I wanted. But because I wasn't afraid to like kind of quit it all, try something new, I've done a lot of things that people who are now my clients consider doing, which is like quitting their jobs and traveling for 6 months, or taking a big road trip, or starting their own business, or blowing up like a relationship or a life somewhere because you're not happy. And so having done those experiments, I feel pretty equipped and pretty solid to like kind of now do what I'm doing, which is a combination of a lot of things that I want in a career. And it took me a while to figure it out, but it's been like the best transition.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I have tried that too. And when you say that, happiness hunting and dream chasing, right? Yes, that's one of my goals. Maybe in the past 30 years, is I'm seeking for happiness. I'm looking for happiness, and yes, it did take me 30 years to find it, and to finally solve that puzzle. Because I thought it's here, and it could go somewhere else, and I have to keep chasing it, right? A different direction. Thank you for sharing, Pam. So, Kevin, as an actor, right? You say you were performing or studying Broadway. That means in Broadway is normally singing and dancing at the same time, correct?
Sometimes, yeah. So for theater, they have what we call straight plays and then musicals. So straight plays are just like your regular dramas or comedies where there's no singing or dancing, just like telling a story. And then you have your musicals that do have singing and dancing. Then you have your other musicals that are kind of just like singing. But yeah, I mean, I I never picked up like dance classes when I was a kid because I was always in school, and so like when I was introduced to theater, I knew how to act and I knew how to sing. And so like whenever I go to the auditions for musicals that require you to be a triple threat, I'm always like, oh God. So there's a term in musical theater called park and bark, and what that is like you literally just park and sing while everyone dances around you, because like if you're not a singer, if you're not a dancer, you can't pick up the choreography, and that's me.
Well, maybe that's the next skill to learn, right?
Yeah,
Because
I'd love to.
yeah, because I think as an actor, those are the skills that will open more doors for you, right?
Yeah,
You already have the look, right? You
thank
know
you.
how to act. Singing, yeah, we haven't heard that from you yet, so don't know.
Yeah, we
And
don't know.
you don't know, right? And dancing, you can move a little bit. All right, things like that. So that would be awesome. Well, thank you. I asked you this before, but what's the difference between fashion design and costume design?
Oh yeah. Like I said, I have a degree in both, but there's just a lot more creative freedom in costume design, because you're basically storytelling. You're creating a character through what they wear, and when it comes to fashion, it's more of a business and how you sell yourself. You're creating a line that a lot of people could critique on, and it's a lot more corporate, a lot more business, because it's all on you. Whereas in costume design, you're with a group of team, you're dealing with actors, producers, directors. It's not, and it's just a lot more fun. In my opinion, I had careers in both. I worked in both, but with costumes, you're just there's just a lot less pressure. And I've always liked storytelling. Is one of my favorite things. And so creating a character through how they're wearing or what color is just it's what attracted me the most with costumes.
Yeah, that's very unique. Thank you for sharing. So how do you approach the costume design? Let's say you work in a film, right? And they give you an outfit for a character, and you have to design the clothing, the costume for that individual actor only.
It's based on the period for sure. If they're like 1800s or 1900s or modern day, and if that person that she's a working woman who is a lawyer, then her most of her wardrobe, that's what we call it, her wardrobe is will be mostly business suits. And if she likes to do yoga, then most of the stuff that she'll have will be at leisure wear as well. So it's, how we create their wardrobe, their closet is just reading the script, mostly reading the script and reading what they're doing, if they're going shopping, if they're going to the beach or something. And another thing is we always create a mood board of just inspirations of what they're doing, who what kind of person they are, and also creating a color palette. Colors are very important in motion pictures, and so the colors mood board and that all inspires what we do with the shopping and especially and creating the clothes for them, the closet for them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
I
a lot
mean,
of
yeah.
it's a lot of research that goes in before actually the building and the shopping.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's very wow. You get the full picture of the character and the activities and the color that look good on that person and the style of the century or the era.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought of that. That's so cool. That means that you will gain a lot of skill set. You know, if later on, if you don't want to stay in this career, you will have so much value to offer for other people.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. So you say that you were working as a branding person, like a marketing or advertisement branding in sport. What was the most fun experience or memory that you had done in the past?
Ooh. I think the most memorable for me, mainly because I was a basketball fan, one of my jobs was at the National Basketball Association, and I worked in the marketing partnerships group. And oftentimes at big events, we'd have athletes come and meet with our marketing partners, right? So all the people that are paying millions of dollars a year to be associated with the NBA. And so you have the heads of those companies, and you bring athletes in because they want to be exposed to, or they want to meet athletes. And I was maybe 2 years out of school, not even. They knew I spoke Chinese or Mandarin. And so they were like, great, we should pair you with Yao. And so I got to kind of like escort Yao like around this space, or Yao Ming. And he was so down to earth. Like I kind of loved him. He was like, this is really not my scene. Like, can you just kind of protect me from these people? Which my job was to actually bring him to people, which was kind of like an awkward place to be. But overall, I think, at least for me, I got into sport because I personally love the sport. Like the athletes are who I love. The game itself is what I love. And I think after in that experience, it was very clear that I'm like, these are very normal people. And you know that in your head, but until you meet them and actually get to engage with them, you don't actually get to fully experience that. And he was the most normal guy. And he actually complimented my Chinese. He was like, your Mandarin is better than some of my friends back home, which I was like, yes. I was like, being born in the US, I was like, that's like the best thing I could hear. I think from that point forward, I was very much like, whatever the more I could work directly with the athletes, like is kind of the dream. But that's probably the most memorable moment.
So where were you compared to him standing up?
Oh God. Yeah. I think I was maybe like just like to his ribs, like maybe. I think somewhere along that line, I think I was like up to his ribs. Yeah, because I'm 5'4", and so
wow, you're 5'4".
yeah.
That's pretty tall too.
Maybe like just like his maybe chest was here and like ribs were here. So, but yeah, just a really, really kind, sweet man.
All right. So what were the biggest challenge that you had faced, Kevin, and have overcome in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the acting, like taking on the career of an actor has been the biggest challenge because, I mean, as a kid, whenever I turned on the TV, I never really saw that many Asian actors or actresses. So it's a little bit discouraging, but I mean, there was just something about it that I wanted to change. And, coming out here and moving out to LA and witnessing that firsthand, like seeing all my other friends that are of different ethnicities and they're actors, them getting like auditions constantly and throughout the week. And then for me, I'm like, my email is like dry. There's nothing in there from my agents or anything. And witnessing that and experiencing that and being like, yeah, this is real, and still having the wherewithal to continue, keeping on. That's been a great challenge. But I mean, there's an Asian actor named Justin Chan, and he was talking about how we turn on the TV and we see family stories of like African American family stories or like white or Hispanic family stories, and we don't see Asian family stories. And we all have stories, right, within our families or that we want to tell. And so he wants to take on the helm of being a writer, director, producer as well. So that's something that really resonated with me. And that's something that I'm starting to do as well. I don't want to be just an actor. I want to be, I'm trying to write scripts about like my family's stories. I want to, I want to direct those stories and I want to produce other stories as well. So it's been like the challenge of finding my place in the film industry.
Did you ever taken like script writing? Because you are in that industry.
Mm-hmm. I haven't taken like a formal class. I've kind of just wrote from the heart. I mean, like I would watch films and TV shows that I really identify with and resonate with, and I kind of just go off of that, Some people say that you're born a writer or you're not, but I don't really believe that's true because, I feel like if you have a story to tell, then sit down, open up like a Word document and just put it on paper, and the story will tell itself.
Some true in it. There's you can always learn the skills to write it so that people will get hooked at the beginning in like the first few minutes, right? That's a hook. It's a big thing. But then after that, it's the weave of the stories and the emotion and things like that. That's also the art and the science of writing, telling the story.
I've I've written a few shorts and I've always like reached out to my friends, other writers or just other people and asking for feedback and and it's been very helpful.
That Disney Plus right now, right? They are promoting or they encourage short story. So maybe you can start from there. You just short story, invite some friend or ask some friends who make an animation movies or just really acting out, right? But it's a very, very short, like 15 minutes that say something about the Asian family. That would be a first great start.
Yes, of course. And that's where it all starts is like our favorite writers or directors, they start with like small short projects and eventually they build up the experience to do like a feature length, and that's where I'm at right now. But I mean, I'm enjoying where I am in the process right now.
Yeah. Start small, but spread your wing, right?
Yes.
Get more connection.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Catherine, what about you? What were the biggest challenge that you have faced and overcame with?
Oh, biggest challenge. It was basically just, it's so competitive in this field because if you want to get in, and then a lot of people are trying to get into a union, and it's so rare to get the days that it's, again, it's all based on who you know. And then when you do meet somebody, it's competitive for them too, because they're worried about you stealing their jobs. And so there's a bit of a contrast right now with the veterans in the union and the newer people, because they don't, all of them are retiring, but they're worried about the newcomers coming in and taking their jobs away. And so it's just the biggest overcome was trying to prove yourself, mainly improve yourself, your skill set and your techniques, because it's not a job or career that you just hand your resume to, because that would be a lot easier, but it's something that you just have to, just first impressions are always important. So you just have to like please up to them and just show who you are and how good you are and what you can do. But it was just, yeah, that's definitely the biggest part, was just connecting to the right people and trusting the right people too, because there's a lot of there's not a lot of not a lot of people to trust in the industry.
Yeah, this is filming industry. It's really hard. What about you, Pam?
So I think, at least for me, the emotional and mental has been probably like way bigger than any tactical kind of physical challenge I've had to deal with. And that may be because I'm a Cancer, maybe it's because I lean more emotionally, but for me, it's been realizing how big of a block or how big of a trigger the feeling and sensation of, and the experience of not being alone and not being loved. And I don't mean to say that I haven't felt loved in my life, and that's not at all what I'm saying. It's more like my response to moment, how big of an issue that's been for me and how that shows up, and when I respond to moments where I don't feel that way. And that shows up in friendships, in romantic relationships, in working relationships, because it's not necessarily the romantic love that I'm talking about. It means it's the being understood, the being accepted, the being seen, and all those things. And of course, being cared for. But I'm a very kind of giving, all in kind of person. But the minute I feel something has happened where it's not being reciprocated back, or I'm not getting that back, I tend to kind of just shut that relationship down, or I run, right? And that's turned into me ending friendships. That's turned into me probably running away from relationships that could have worked if I'd stayed and didn't get so stuck in that idea that I wasn't being loved. Or even in some work situations where I felt like I wasn't being appreciated, what I was bringing to the table wasn't being valued. And so the biggest struggle has really been identifying that and understanding that. And so I spent the last few years trying to make sense of that, and also figuring out what do I need to do differently, because oftentimes the thing I most wanted, which was to be loved, to be seen, to be understood, required me to not run from those situations and not act in the way that I acted, when I reacted to those situations. So that's been by far, I think, the biggest one that I've really made strides on in the last few years. That's changed a lot of things for me, as far as how I approach other humans in my relationship, but also just what I'm now able to do as a result, because that's no longer as big of a block as it used to be. I think it's still a work in progress, but it's freed me up in so many ways to kind of pursue so many more things, because that's now A, unearthed, and B, dealt with or being dealt with. So that's been by far the biggest and best thing I've overcome.
Yeah, congratulations. That's very hard to see, right? The emotional and mental blind spot.
Yeah.
And it's not clearly discrimination or something that you can see in front of you. This is something hidden. It's your belief system, right? And once you're able to see it clearly, you can deal with it.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's almost harder. A, it's harder to identify for sure because of all the things you just said. But B, like the physical, like when you asked the question, I thought about, I had a back injury in which like I couldn't walk for like almost 2 months, and I wasn't sure how I was going to recover from it or what my physical state was going to be. And I was like, that was actually fine. Like that wasn't that bad. Because sometimes once you sort through the emotional stuff, and once you realize how that permeates almost like every aspect of your life, your interactions every single day, you realize kind of how much bigger that impact is. But to your point, it's really hard to uncover sometimes.
In the coaching industry, we know that we cannot see ourselves inside the frame, inside the picture, right? So we always need somebody to shine a mirror or show us the blind spot. That's why we work with coaches.
That's why you and I have businesses.
We are here and we are leading the way because we use our experience as lessons learned, and as I would say that, to create the path, right? So we have more concrete direction and pathway to lead other people who are walking on the same path so that they can reach there faster and sooner and less painful.
Yeah, totally. And that's why I think your mission is so wonderful. But it's so interesting hearing Kevin's story and Katherine's story and how we're each pushing on that front, but from different ways. Like Katherine, through just you being in those positions at all, right? And starting to show people that there's someone here who's doing it. And Kevin, you doing the same, but also starting to think about how can I bring more stories to life, and how can I like show more, like, kind of disseminate that representation broader. And, Kimchi, through you telling individual stories and then giving tools and strategies to like really think through some of that stuff. So I love all the different angles, but it's all trying to further that like same mission.
All right, Kevin, what do you know now that you wish you knew 5 years ago?
I'm not even sure if I know this now. I'm getting the grasp of it. But it's just being patient. 5 years ago, and I think it's just like my generation of millennials, we want immediate results or like immediate success, and so like now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, this thing that I'm doing, it takes a while, right? And I've finally come to terms with it, but it is something that I like. Be patient is what I would tell myself. That's the most important thing, and just like enjoy the process throughout, because my teachers would always tell me like it's about the journey, not the destination, right? And if you're not enjoying the journey, then the destination won't mean anything to you when you get there. It won't mean as much.
Yeah, that's the hardest.
Yeah.
Hardest lesson is be patient. And then also like acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard. It took me so long.
And also just like focusing on your path, right? Because this industry that we're in, if we look to the left and to the right, there's actors that are like milestones ahead of us, or like, steps ahead of us. And we start to like look back on ourselves and we're like, I'm not there yet. That must mean that I'm bad, but that's not it, because everyone is on their own path. And so it's just like a matter of developing tunnel vision kind of, and just keep on focusing on the path ahead of you, no matter what, everything around you, what is going on.
Oh yeah. Let's see. 5 years ago, it would be my first year in college, and definitely, I think I would have wished I knew is that just to open up to more people. I was so career driven and just straight narrow path in what I wanted to do that I never got to enjoy life as a college student, and just being 18 years old and just celebrating what I had now, because it was going to school, getting good grades, and just finishing the projects that looking back at it now, I wish that I was just got to celebrate, party a little bit more, just hang out with friends a little bit more, and not grow up so fast, basically.
Yeah, it happened to all of us. So I hope that your message reach out to the people who are hustling.
Yeah.
They hustle, and they don't remember what they did. Like,
Yeah.
last week, because it's a plane, because they go through emotion, right? They go through emotion, and they forgot that what they did, and be present in the moment.
Yeah, and for me, I thought that was normal. I thought I had to grow fast to be an adult fast, but talking to my peers, my other people I studied with, it was what I did was definitely not expected. But it was kind of different because I had different mindset compared to them because of how I was raised, and so that definitely influenced a lot in my college years.
I remember that when I was young, I think, yeah, in college, right? I'm looking forward. I wish that I graduate and have a job, and then I finished. I graduate and have a job. I said, I wish I marry and have children, and I reached that, and I said, I wish I wish that I'm retired and enjoy my life. And now I am that. I'm kind of like, you can consider as retired, because I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. But then I say, oh my God, I wish that I'm young again. I'm like, I have the energy, I have the mind, and things to do. But it's never too late to
Yeah.
realize that sooner.
And I think that's something that everyone should try to resonate and just try to do, because life really goes by so fast. And it's just something that we just want to click pause on and just like embrace what we have now. It's so important.
It is.
Just one thing I'd add, because I think, Katherine, you bring up such a great point, is you wouldn't have gotten to where you are and be the youngest person, in your union or guild, if, you hadn't pushed in the ways that you had. So sometimes it's also recognizing the sacrifices that you have to make to get what you want also. But the more aware we are of the sacrifices while we're making them, I think the more cognizant we are of where we need to then maybe plug in a little bit more. But your accomplishments are, pretty incredible. So, so that's absolutely, something to be proud of, which I'm sure you are. I really wish I understood the distinction, or that there's a difference between like learning a lesson or knowing a fact that would help you, and embodying that and actually personifying it and incorporating it into your behavior. Because there's plenty of lessons that I've learned over and over and over again that by the 7th, 10th time, you're just like, okay, why am I still doing this? And that happens on a small scale. It also happens on a really big scale. But I think it was really just in the last few years that I really started to understand, and a lot of help through my therapist is to really understand that to embody a change and to actually make that behavior something that you are living on a regular basis certainly takes practice. But I just wish I knew that there was even that line to be drawn, because then I would have started working on that earlier, trying to think about the things that I was learning from each, good and bad experience, and how to make sure that I was really incorporating it into my life in a more sustainable way. Versus, I think earlier on in my life, I was like, oh yeah, I've learned that lesson. Cool. Check. Got it. Right. Like now I can move on. Lessons stored. It's in the computer. But to actually make it a daily practice, I think has been something that we'd have to make the intentional choice around.
Can you elaborate that? Like, what's the difference between learning a lesson and knowing a fact?
So I'm kind of lumping learning a lesson and knowing a fact into the same bucket versus embodying it in your behavior, like actually incorporating it into your like day-to-day behavior. And so I'm trying to think like, I guess going on the same thing, the thing that I was saying earlier, I most recently, both in friendships, probably starting high school, right? If I felt I was wronged in some way, I had no problem ending that friendship. I would just walk away from it. I was like, cool, I'm good, you're good. We don't have to engage in this anymore. I'll keep walking. And that's happened a few times over in my friendships. And each time looking back, and most recently I did that with my dad, actually. We had a bit of a falling out like 3 years ago, and it had been building for a while. And I just reached my point where I was like, I'm good. We're not going to talk. And we didn't talk for 3 years. And we just started talking again because I was like, okay, it's no longer worth like, the silence. But what I wish I had started to think about then is like, why is my response to walk away? Is there another path to addressing this? What am I trying to accomplish by walking away, which is self-protection, which was, all these other things, and really trying to make sense of because the lesson to me at the time was seemingly like, don't let other people hurt you, right? Like cut people out that are hurting you. But instead of that, I wish I'd really started to think about how that applies to then how I operate in my friendships, and think about how maybe instead of cutting the person out, it's actually how do you mitigate or how do you cut out the behavior, but maybe it's not the person, right? And that's just one example, but the lesson that I've taken from things isn't always then how I translate it into my behavior. And I wish I had started earlier on to think about how things I've learned can then be more sustainably added into the way that I operate going forward. It's not to say I should go back to those friendships. It's just to say in my future friendships, how do I start to think about how do I address conflict? How do I handle these moments where, something where I feel wronged and I, want to address that. So, I mean, this thing with my dad, we just reconciled last year. So I'm still obviously learning this.
Yeah. So what's your personal motto, Kevin?
My personal motto is wherever you go with your heart. That's just something I've learned. I mean, my curiosity in acting, I just went with my heart and just trusted that everything else will fall in line, and then it's worked out. And then moving to New York, which was probably one of the most, at the time, was like the most troublesome and like difficult processes in my life, but it was something that I wanted to do, and that was something, and so I just took that leap of faith. And then moving out here to LA, I was questioning if I wanted to just leave everything that I had built behind in New York and pretty much start over here in LA. And I something was like, yeah, do it. You have nothing to lose. So every, I guess, like major decision that I've made in my life, I didn't really look at the logistics of it. I more so went from like I listened to my heart instead, and I don't really regret anything that I've done so far, but yeah, I would say that's my motto.
Katherine?
Yeah, personal motto of mine that I always follow is life doesn't get easier, but does get better. And that's something a personal coach and mentor of mine told me way back beginning of high school. And it's something that I always told myself, like everything I struggled with, overcame with, it's something that I always repeat in my head that it will get better eventually. Eventually, you just have to push forward to find out if it does or not.
Wonderful. Pam?
I'm going to edit mine a little bit because what I sent was really long. But I mean, the core part is chart your own path. But the parts before that, I think that are important is facing yourself, kind of facing a lot of the things that, you both do want and don't want to see. But the more you can address kind of your baggage early on, the better off you are down the line. But then you also have to know what you want, right? So define what you need, or define what you want, and do the work to figure out what would really, be fulfilling for you. And then chart your own path. And I think Kevin and Katherine, you've both said elements of this, which is trying to find ways that are truly your own unadulterated path, right? That isn't because of pressure from the outside, that isn't because of responsibilities that you feel like you have to fulfill, but something that's truly your own.
What is your proudest moment to date, Kevin?
I would say it was when I shot my first feature film in Mexico. It was based on a true story, and I got to speak my native language as my first role. I got to speak Vietnamese, and so it was just very, 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 just like touching, because I had gone like a couple years of not booking anything at all, and I had almost like considered quitting acting, but to be able to have my first role be a Vietnamese speaking character, that was something that was very, very, I was just very honored and grateful for that opportunity. And then to be able to walk the red carpet in Sacramento and San Jose and Los Angeles for that movie, that was something that I'm probably going to remember for the rest of my life.
What's the name of the movie?
The movie is called The Clear Shot. It is going through distribution right now, from what I hear. But like those are things that are not in the actor's control. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So did you have problem or trouble speaking Vietnamese?
Not really. I mean, when I was a kid, I kind of juggled both English and Vietnamese. Like my parents would speak Vietnamese at home, and then I would go to school and learn English. And so like it was like 50-50 when I was maybe about in elementary school. But once I started going to school more and started learning English more, the scales tipped more towards the English side. And then in high school, there was a point when I was like, oh, I don't want to speak Vietnamese because people were making fun of us for it. But once I got into college and I got into like Asian American activism and then the history of Vietnam, I was like, I'm very, very proud to be Asian American, more specifically Vietnamese American. And so I like started picking up the language more. I started calling my mom more and just being, more more connected with who I am, So like now I still speak Vietnamese like pretty fluently. I can hold a conversation, but yeah, I don't think I really had a problem with it. The script was in English, and so my cast members and I who played my brothers, we just translated it to how we would say it to each other in Vietnamese.
What about you, Catherine?
Yeah, well, I first want to say, Kevin, that's really awesome that you got to speak Vietnamese because, like myself, English is my second language, so it's definitely very hard to even pursue that in acting, which is crazy. But for me, my
proudest moment
to date is my parents actually bragging about my career to their friends, because yeah, it was actually really big because with the language barrier, it was so hard explaining to them in Vietnamese what I wanted to do, and since they don't speak English, it was so hard explaining like the union and just school wise. And so after I got my first feature film, Captain Marvel, it was just like they were just all on board and just telling their friends and my relatives about it. It was strange just hearing it all in Vietnamese from them. Yeah.
Next time don't need to explain to them about union, because this concept is very hard to explain, especially if you try to speak in Vietnamese. Just tell them or take them to see a movie and say, that character, you see the outfit, I made that.
Yeah, that was the crazy part. And then when they saw the film, I showed them like my name on the credits. That was pretty nice for them to post on Facebook and everything. It was great.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think for life overall, my proudest, I guess, accomplishment is truly if I like got hit by a bus like after this recording, like I'd be fine. Like I've taken the risks I wanted to take. I followed the dreams I wanted to follow. I've, done a lot of the things that I've set on like the quote, quote bucket list. And not that there wouldn't be a ton I still want to do, but I don't feel like I've not done something out of fear. And so that overall, I think life-wise is what I'm most proud of. But right now in terms of moments in my work, is each time I've had this happen twice in the last week, but each time I talk to a client and they're just like, I feel so much more clear and confident in like what I want to do, who I want to be, where I want to go. Like hearing those words, like it brings like tears to my eyes, like in the moments, like when I'm talking to them, like it makes me so happy to hear that like people are kind of figuring out like what would be fulfilling for them and what their wants are. So yeah, that's right now by far like the most exciting thing in my life.
I can resonate with that. It's like the proudest moment when you have your children come to you and say, Mom, Dad, I know what make me feel happy, and I am happy, right? So that's the proudest moment that a parent can have.
Mm.
Not like, their account with millions of dollars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So 3 things that you suggest others to do to begin if they want to follow your footsteps. Kevin?
3 things. I would say the first thing is to be passionate, and fully commit. Um, Pam, I know you're into basketball, and so am I. Allen Iverson always would say, I left it all out on the court. And I think that's something where like actors can say, I left my heart or my soul out on the stage or on the set, so being passionate is something that's going to get you far. The second thing, be generous. I remember Katherine talking about how competitive it is in our industries, right? And so it's like we kind of don't have a community sometimes. And so you don't want to be that person that just kind of just cares about themselves. You want to be that person that other people can, confide in, and just be a person that other people want to work with. And the third thing is to just have faith, because these journeys that we're on, sometimes the step ahead doesn't really look clear, right? And we don't know exactly if we're headed in the right direction. But as long as you have faith in yourself and what you're doing, I think it'll all work out in the end.
Katherine?
Yeah, 3 things I would just suggest people who want to get into costume is just be nice, because a coworker recently just told me that they'd rather work with somebody who's nice and not know what they're doing than a person who's really good but also really mean, because you're stuck with them for long hours in a day, and it's just better just to work with somebody who is nice and fun to talk to than not. Another thing is just be really certain of what you want to do, because a lot of people will ask me. I've been asked a lot of like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to work in costumes, and stuff like that? And it's something that you just like, it's so hard to get into, and once you're into it, it's kind of a waste of time just rerouting yourself and your path. And another thing is just like, be passionate. It's sort of the same thing, but you just have to love what you're doing. And again, with the long hours and 60-hour days or weeks, it's just really sad complaining about your life, about your work and the end of it. And it's the sort of saying is, if you love what you're doing, the job it's not a job in the end. And so that's basically it. It's just, you have to really love the job and be okay of it.
Thank you. Pam?
So I think the first one for me would be as much as you can to drop the notion of the right answer or the right path. That there's this target thing that you have to get to, and that thing is what's going to make you happy or fulfilled or whatever it is, whether it's a job in a company or CEO or founder, whatever that title is, or whether it's mom and I need to have a family in this home and whatever. And instead focus on the qualities of the experience that you're looking for. Some people who are very, it's not to say that at some point you should again clear of being an actor, being a costume designer. But first and foremost, instead of starting there, to start with kind of the qualities of the experience that you want. That's one. Second, I would say be curious. I think for a lot of people who maybe at a really young age have like a clear passion that they're interested in and pursue, you never know kind of how that passion can evolve or change entirely, or how new inputs can come in and kind of maybe strike a new chord. And so pursuing things that you're interested in, even lightly, just to get a touch of like, to validate whether it's truly something you're into or not. But kind of along with curiosity is being open, right? Is kind of being open to exploring a lot of different paths and testing things. Because sometimes the things we think we know in our heads, until we actually try it, we don't know for sure that we're going to like it. I think the last one I would say, if people are interested in like specifically the sports path, you can like, reach out, and I'm happy to talk about that. But I'm focusing more on kind of life things. I think the more we can address our weaknesses, our fears, like the things that we're uncomfortable looking at, the things that we're scared to talk about, like the sooner we address those things, the quicker they're no longer blocks for us down the line. And it's not to say many successful people haven't gotten very far with blocking out a lot of stuff, but as far as like being fulfilled and living more sustainably, and kind of tapping into a lot of the human experience, I think the more that we can address our baggage and face it, the better off we are in the long run for the people, not just for us, but also the people around us and the relationships that we have.
All right. So Kevin won't sing for us. Oh man. So we don't have anything that we can demonstrate for you all today. So how can people reach out to you?
I am on Instagram. My tag is I am Kevin Bach. So I, the letter A, M, my first name Kevin, and then BACH. That's my Instagram. I'm also on IMDb. Those are pretty much my main two. I'm on Facebook, but that's more like personal use. But my Instagram is usually where I connect and talk to people the most.
Yeah, on Instagram, and same with Kevin, I am IMDb. Although I'm a horrible millennial, I'm not really involved in social media, but I guess I have to now just to reach out to other people in the community.
So mainly my website, work-wise, it's Pam, P-A-M, Yang, Y-A-N-G, .NYC. And I'm on social, but only for personal reasons. So professionally, it's just my website, and then also LinkedIn if anybody wants to find me there. But I write an article a week just about kind of life and career, living more fulfilling lives and careers. So if people want to sign up for that, they can do so on my website.
Well, that's it for today. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please share with friends and family members, and also on social media. Use the hashtag Asian Women of Power. Until next time, live life loud.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Asian Women of Power podcast. We encourage you to apply what you've learned here today to make your life a little bit better every day. For more tips, tools, practical ideas, and conversations around a business, life, and relationships, so that you too can live life loud, we invite you to join the Asian Women of Power Facebook group at www.joinasianwomenofpower.com.